Hello and welcome to another episode of the Book Tribe podcast. And today we're going to be talking about how authors can turn their passion into profit as a result of good marketing strategy and discovering alternative revenue streams. And helping me to navigate this topic and to provide her guidance is Lacy, owner of Black Fox Marketing, a book marketer and author coach, helping writers to find their voice and share their stories with the world. Welcome, Lacy. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Yeah. Hey, Erica. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm super excited about this conversation because I think for authors, the word business is kind of a bit of a scary thing, and marketing is a bit of a scary thing. You know, revenue streams, all of that sounds quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we have some quick fire bookish questions just to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
So the first one is there a book that you wish everyone would read, and why is that?
Oh, yeah. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It is just a fantastic illustration of going past the points of positive, negative resistance in your life to continue on to like your life's purpose. And it's just such a really good, heartwarming, inspiring story about just believing in yourself, knowing what you're meant for, and just staying true to your purpose and not letting anything shake you. It's incredible.
I love that. That sounds such a profound read, like a life-changing read.
Yeah. I read it every 3 years.
Yeah, I'm going to have to buy it because I confess I haven't read it, but I'll add it to my TBR list, which is probably like miles long right now. But anyway, next question. So describe your ideal reading environment.
Yeah, I love cozying up on a couch under a fuzzy blanket with tea. I've got candles going. I've got music playing in the background. And that's my ideal reading.
Such a vibe, yeah. Although I'm on that kind of same track, but then I have to confess, sitting on a sunbed in the sun in Mexico with Kindle was pretty good as well. I say.
That's incredible.
So if you could have dinner with any author, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, you know what? Tony Robbins. I feel like it would be the most inspirational dinner ever. Yeah.
Just fair enough. That's simple, straightforward answer.
Yeah.
Love it. Really lovely. Right. Thank you, Lacy. That's the quick fire questions done.
Love them.
Yeah. So let's get into the topic of today. But let's just set the scene for our listeners a little bit and talk about what led you to where you are today as a book marketing coach for authors, and how is it that you're helping them now?
Yeah, this industry itself has always been a part of me. I still have books from when I was 9 that I wrote and illustrated. And so I've always been a writer, always been an author at heart. Even in my corporate world, like I've still always writing. I was doing a lot of ghostwriting in the corporate world as well for a lot of marketing material. I have a degree in marketing. I started beta reading for authors just over 12 years ago, just to start giving feedback and help them with the books. Very quickly went into editing, very quickly saw the tie over, of course, to marketing as well. And that was something I was always doing on the side in the corporate world. And now I'm coming up on my 4th year of going solo, just working specific with authors, helping them on the marketing, the shaping their books, really just finding their authentic brand voice so they can better connect with their audience and actually help increase their book sales.
Amazing stuff. I love that. So 4 years of experience working, with authors as like your main job.
Yeah.
So what is it that you think authors are facing at the moment in terms of challenges, specifically publishing challenges that affects the way that they, make money from their books?
Yeah. So one of the great things, or I should say one of the great things that has happened for authors is a lot of barriers have been removed for people to write books and publish their books, which is fantastic, right? So gone are the days it's just a select few write their books, they work with the publisher, it gets it put out there. While that's amazing, it does create a lot of struggles where a lot of authors coming out and now they have essentially a product that they're now trying to sell. So they've now become a business owner, like an entrepreneur, but they don't know how to run a business. So now they didn't just write a book, which is huge. Like I like to use the example of it's like climbing Everest. Writing and publishing your book is like getting a base camp, which is fantastic. Not many people in the world have done it. But now marketing, promoting, building a successful business, getting your book out to people all over the world is like trying to scale up to the Everest peak. And a lot, unfortunately, can't do that because they don't have the right process or strategies, or they simply just don't know what next steps to take. So it's great because a lot more can write books. But now authors are coming out and they're in this completely new environment where they have to be a CEO, they have to be VP of marketing, they have to be VP of sales, they have to be VP of operations, they have to drive a business. But it's a really cloudy, muddy world. And the second fact is writing a book is a very solo type of task. So usually writing on your own, and now you're trying to spread it out to people all over the world. So sales can be really uncomfortable. Like I'll have a lot of authors that'll come through with me and they feel really uncomfortable sales. They don't really know what to say. They don't know how to best position their book, or it feels awkward to sell it. They're like, I just want people to read it. And I know that they would enjoy it. But to do that, you have to tell people why it's of value, which comes down to your message and delivery.
Yeah, so important to be, I think, really specific about that. And when it comes to the choice then for authors, when it comes to, publishing, which route do they go down? Do they go down kind of self-publishing, traditional? Which do you think has the most pros versus cons?
Yeah. I mean, every author's big dream is they'll be picked up by a big traditional publisher. Someone's going to take on their book, they'll manage and leverage everything for them. And like that's the end goal, right? There are a lot, though, that are starting in the self publishing phase. And we've seen it a lot with, Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, Sarah J. Maas, who wrote the Throne of Glass series. Like there are a lot of authors will start in the self publishing route, really focus on building up their community, leveraging any connections they do have, and expanding the books. And then they later get picked up by a large traditional publisher. So you see, it's still quite a bit of a mix. I mean, at the end of the day, traditional publishing is fantastic. They have a sound system. They really have like these really strong, not only distribution networks, but also media and publication, everything else. So they do a lot of work simply by just sending a message to someone else to say the book is really quality. Now, obviously, the cons of traditional publishing is you typically lose a lot of your creative control with the books, unless you've had a really strong community, you have really high engagement with your work, you have really strong, healthy sales to say what I've written and created is working. Then you can kind of retain a lot of that. But you do see it a lot, like on the traditional side, is you're getting the support, but you're giving up creative control a little bit. On the indie side, of course, you have full control. So you can do what you want. You can publish your books where you want. You can go whatever direction you want with a cover and storyline and everything else. But then it goes back to that before, is it's a lot now for you to have to manage. So now you still have to be marketing and sales and admin while also still being the creative who's trying to write more books to get out to the people. So it's really just a hit or miss. And it really comes down to a person's personality. Some are really tech and can pick it up. Self-publishing is a really great avenue because it's not that hard once you kind of figure out the system. Some really don't want to work that in, but they've really put and invest a lot of time into the work, and they use some good connections and they can get picked up by a traditional publisher. So it really comes down to each author and their temperament.
Yeah. And I think, it's, as you said earlier, that journey to kind of publishing the book is a process in itself. And so, the marketing side of once you've gotten through that process, if you're self-publishing, it can seem, I suppose, quite overwhelming because you're like, okay, now I've got to, I've got to sell it now.
Yeah.
So what would your top 3 tips be to authors who have, who are marketing their book? I suppose, marketing could start before you publish anyway,
Yeah.
but what would your top 3 tips be?
Yeah, I think if you're wanting to take on the brunt of the work yourself, or you're in a position you're going to do that, the first thing you need to do is really focus on building a community with your ideal readers. So that means you really need to understand who's going to be reading your books, but not only like age, gender, I'm talking about the psychographic. So how they make their buying decisions, why they're picking up books like yours, what's going on in their life, their situation, what cause them to want to go to that route versus even like not only another book, but a show, a series, a therapist, or whatever other activity that they want to do. So really understanding what they're wanting to get out of that book. And then so you can really create a community, so a space for them to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel connected, that really focuses on increasing engagement. So it's build a community, provide value, and get that engagement. The next is to really just try to leverage email marketing. So if you're doing it yourself, there's a lot of potential revenue that you can earn from email marketing, but you can't do that if you don't first have that community. So build a community, get on social, create your groups on whether it's Facebook or a social media channel. And then you use email marketing to really focus on the sales side, where essentially at that point, you're just telling people that love your work, are going to keep buying it, your raving fans. You're just telling like, hey, now this new book is out and here's something else that's exciting. So you're just really fostering that engagement even further. And then the third to leverage is social media, but that's with a caveat. If all you're doing is posting on social media, it's going to take you a lot longer to get sales. Treat social media, especially when you're an emerging author starting out, as something just provides social proof that, yes, I am an author. I'm saying, yes, I have credibility. So showcase the parts of the books, like quotes and snippets and samples that people would like, so they can get a little bit of an affinity to it. So they feel like this seems like it's really right for me. So a lot will start on social media and they just post like, well, I'm not getting any sales, but that's one tiny piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's a lot of what the mindset is that social media is the place where I can sell my books. But actually, there's a multi-channel approach to this that perhaps inexperienced people might not necessarily, understand. And I think it's really important for people to consider how else, might I connect with my audience. And where are they actually living? They might not be living on social media. It might be that it's the book clubs that you have to go to, and the societies that are perhaps related. So yeah, I think that's really important when it comes to the email lists then, and creating kind of email marketing and newsletters. What are some proven strategies or methods that authors can kind of take away from this in terms of setting up their own newsletter and building a community that way?
Yeah. And honestly, it's such a fantastic tool. If you don't have a newsletter, get on having one. And there are some incredible platforms like MailerLite, all like Author Email, that aren't that expensive, that are tailored a little bit more to authors, that it doesn't have to cost a lot either. The biggest thing you want to do if you do have email marketing, obviously you have to get subscribers, right? You have to have an audience to speak to. And a great way to do that is to use what's called lead magnets. So a lead magnet, to the sense of an author, is something that you use to attract your audience, so your potential leads, right? So things like a novella, a short story, a snippets, bonus chapters, things like that you can give away. So you do something to like entice your audience to want to subscribe to it. So for example, it's like, hey, click here to download a free novella. They click, enter the information, they click a little box that says, yes, I want to subscribe to receive bonus chapters, updates, sneak peeks, etc. within the newsletter. So now you have them in the newsletter, and it's great because they're coming in a more engaged space. So they've read the book. They've not only enjoyed your book, but they enjoyed it enough to want to keep reading more of the world. So have a few novellas that you can create, like have 3, 4, 6 different novellas that you can give away that people keep going, because it, again, keeps them in that world that you've created, but they're just such an effective way to get people in. The next is to leverage collaboration. So if you have authors or people within the space that are either in the same genre or a similar genre, you can highlight their stuff within it as well. The goal of your email is to provide value to your audience. Think of how many emails we get in a day. You want to make sure that every single sentence in there is going to add some type of value. They don't have to be long. They can be very short, and they can have a quick little update of what you worked on your books. But you can also use that space to highlight other people's work. Now, a lot of authors overlook this because they think like, well, yeah, but they're a competing author. When you think of yourself as a reader first. If you love a certain book or series, what do you want more? You want more of the exact same thing. So if you can showcase that to them, like, hey, like for all my romance fans out here, you've got to check out so-and-so. If you love fantasy, you got to dive deep into my friends, right? So you just suggest it. And now you're someone who's providing value. So you're hosting a space, you're still increasing that community, and it just helps. And then not only that, but that other author can be doing the same thing. They can be talking about you in their newsletter. And now your reach is expanded even further, right? And then the final is, when you're looking at something different, is just really and I have to hammer it in again, is really just focus on value. So it goes back to like understanding your audience. What do they want? What kind of information? How often you have to do it? If you're an author and all you're doing is promoting your books, once a month is more than fine. If you have services that you're trying to sell outside of it, like coaching, consulting, something else, once a week is okay, right? But you just have to think about, what does my audience want and what's going to give them value? So then what kind of updates do I need to do? Think of it as if it's like you have a group of like friends that you have in a group chat that you guys consistently talk. It's like, what updates would I give that group chat? Like, what are my highlights? What are my snippets? What are like the funny memes or gifs or videos or cool little short stories or things that I know I would automatically send to them? Treat that as your email newsletter list.
I really love that collaboration piece actually being brought into that, because we've kind of touched on newsletters previously, but actually that collaboration piece, and as you say, it's so, I know that I'm a mood reader anyway, so if I get
Yeah.
into a genre, I want to keep reading books
Mhm,
like it. And
mhm,
so actually, you're within your network of
mhm.
author collaborators, you're creating more opportunity through sharing each
Mhm.
other's work, which is,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoy that. And we also mentioned there different kind of services that authors might be promoting,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about to you today,
Yeah.
because beyond book sales, are there things that authors can be doing that kind of are alternative revenue streams?
Yes. And I think it's a lot of authors sleep on these types of things. And there's so much that you can create in revenue. Like you can do extremely well. Like there are self-published authors that are making $450,000 every couple of years in just their books alone. Like there's a lot that you can do. But an even faster way to get that, if you're wanting to make like that 10,000 per month in revenue, is adding extra services. So things like having a coaching consulting program. So for example, I had a client and she wrote these really great children's books. She was multiple times Amazon bestseller. She had like global awards on like a lot of her books. And she created like an actual training program teaching other authors how to write in a children's book genre. So she talked about different things that you can do, consideration points when you're editing, when you're marketing, your promoting, like kind of everything that she went through with that process that we developed, to tell other people like, hey, here's what you can do as well. And that's something you can sell alongside, which is essentially passive income, where it's like you build a training program, you can sell it as just a digital course, you don't have to coach it, or you can step in and do one-to-one or one-to-group type of training where now you're interacting with other authors. You can do paid speaking opportunities. So of course, this works really well if you're a nonfiction author, but you can get like, if you're starting out, like you can get anywhere from like $300 to $1,000 per speaking opportunity session. That can very quickly rise to $2,000 per paid speaking opportunity, to $5,000 depending what your topic is. And that's like you just coming in as a subject matter expert talking. So if you have a book on leadership, well, there's so many opportunities you can go in where you can get paid to speak on leadership, whether it's moving up into upper management or assessing your team. And then you can add a consulting program on top of that you can sell from a stage as well, where now you can sell high ticket, which is like over 1,000 or more per program. You can also look at creating just one-off workshops, webinars, retreats that you can just sell with it. So if you have a book that's teaching people how to like love their self and like really grow into their authentic self, well, how incredible would it be to create a retreat that you can now invite 8, 10, whatever people into this weekend type of thing, where it's more an intimate setting, where now you just have this money and you're just sharing space that you're trying to create anyways with your book. And then maybe you have another program you can upsell them into either, or even something as simple as like merchandise or swag or things like that. So even like, and this is true for any authors, any genre, like all these things, you can do that for any author, any genre, but like swag and merchandise. So if you have like their quotes or things that you love with your book, well, maybe you look at licensing opportunities where you can allow people like look on Etsy and then you can license your work out to different shops that already are established, already have a following in sales, and it can create merchandise for your books, or maybe you create your own Etsy shop, right? So there's so many different things that you can create and do where you're generating revenue alongside of your book, still doing stuff you love. And the other thing, before I even forget, is if you're an author and you have things that you did really well, like for example, maybe you really love editing, maybe you just have a knack for creating amazing book trailers, or you love doing cover design, skills that you are really good at, and maybe it's even social media, skills that you are really good at, there are so many other authors that struggle with. So you can literally just take your time, do stuff that you just really enjoy and find super easy, and you can easily sell those just service packages to other authors.
Yeah, I'm really interested by that, because I suppose one of the questions we might get is, well, how much experience do I need? Especially around these training courses. Like, do
Mhm.
I need to have any particular qualifications, or can I just do it from my own experience?
Yeah, 100% you can do it. Like, and again, like you think you as an author, it's not only your experience writing the book, your book is a culmination of who you are. So it's literally like your skills, experiences, life, values, morals, like everything you've been through in life has come to create this book. And that is for any genre. You'll see a lot of fantasy authors will say, like, I book so and so is this character. I see myself in these characters. I use this pain to write this deep scene. So everything is just kind of a part of you. So it's more like how you can do it. I mean, the end goal of a coach is to be able to sit there and say, I see where you are sitting. So pain state. I know where you want to go and I can map out that path to get there. It's the same thing for any of those types of services. So if you've had a book that you did have some success on it, you got some really good stats, you had really good engagement, healthy sales and everything else, absolutely you can walk through that process and teach someone else how to do that. If you've never taken any type of training in digital or social media marketing, but you can just create book trailers, like incredible book trailers, and you've got some really good like views and engagement and like actual content like coming from that, well, that's experience enough on its own. So just kind of look at like, what are your qualifications for that specific? Because qualification doesn't always necessarily mean you got a degree or certification in something.
Yeah, no, and I think, as you say, it's picking out what is, true to you as well. Like, you can't just go around doing everything and just, creating revenue stream after revenue stream, because you have to be good at something first to make sure that that's working before you keep piling all of that work on. That's probably speaking from my own experience, that one.
Yeah.
So, my next question is then, how can authors kind of create effective strategies for turning their readers into paying customers through products or services related to their books?
Yeah. Like, it's honestly, like, it's looking at like what other products or services really fit. Again, going back to your target, everything begins with your target audience. You have to know who your ideal reader is, or who your ideal like client, customer, consumer, right? Whatever you're selling. So you have to really understand what they need. And then you have to understand like what your voice within it is. And that comes down to branding. It's like, what's my authentic voice? What's my core message, my theme, my everything through whatever I'm selling? How can I now deliver that to my audience in a way that they will understand what the value is to them? And then you do like, you look at like other product services opportunities, but you also look at things that are more creative to help boost those book sales as well. So like, look at like creating, like finding ARC readers to help increase the amount of reviews on launch day. Look to developing a street team, so a group of like really highly engaged audience, like readers, that can really promote not only your books but your products or services onto their platforms. Look at getting influencers or key industry personnel. So like, don't sleep on Book Talk or Bookstagram, right? But you can look at people that have a really good following. And there's a phrase called BOPA, boring other people's audiences. So you essentially get hosted or get promoted to their audience from them. And there's someone who already has credibility and trust established with their own audience. So now they're going to bring you in and can talk about like, you got to check out these books are incredible, or this service or product or whatever it is you're selling. It's not even just the books, but now they host you to your audience. Now that audience is way more attentive than if you tried to just reach them on their own. And now you're crossing over. And again, now you're leveraging their opportunities. You leveraging speaking opportunities, like we talked about, like paid, non-paid, or paid and non-paid. Like, get on podcasts, speak to different groups, look for blog opportunities, even write on other people's blogs, or where you can go speak in front of a crowd. So when you do all those different types of things, it's great because it is going to help boost your sales. It is going to help like build credibility and increase like your authority within your genre, your niche, or industry.
Yeah, and I think that's really important what you're saying there, which is, creating a strategy based around kind of who your ideal reader is, and then kind of also doing what's comfortable for you, because I imagine that not everyone's comfortable doing speaking and not everyone's comfortable doing X. So there is a more targeted strategy probably that the author themselves is comfortable with.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you have to be very, like, as much as it's for your audience, you do have to be very careful of self, because burnout is a very real thing that authors experience, especially when they try, even if they're only selling their books. You're getting into this new space, you're speaking, you're doing all these new things that you didn't do before, like marketing and selling your books and everything else. You can lead to burnout. There are a lot of insecurities and fears and nerves and inner narratives that pop up along the way as well. So while you are doing like, what is my audience going to want, you still have to think like, what's authentic to me? So what fits, what's alignment? Like, I always tell people, like, even just choosing social media platforms, there's almost 8 billion people in this world. You're going to find your audience on every single platform that exists now and will ever exist. But you have to also feel like, do you enjoy the platforms? Can you be consistent? Your goal is to create a consistent brand experience of value to your audience. And if adding in extra platforms, doing certain strategies is going to hurt that in any way, where now you can't show up consistently, maybe social media stopping, you stop looking at paid speaking opportunities, you don't have time to actually deliver the coaching program you developed, well, then something everything has to change. So you do have to make sure that at the end of the day, you are still being authentic to you, because that's how you can better connect with your audience and get better engagement, even if the audience size is a little bit smaller.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I'd just like to ask, I know that we've touched on kind of some of those newsletter tools, but are there any other tools, resources that the authors should be kind of considering to help them with their marketing or with, creating new revenue streams? Are there any kind of things that you can highlight for them?
Yeah. So for an author that is starting out, I mean, it really depends on what stage you're at. But say if you're just starting out, you're getting new to this. Of course, yes, we talk about social media platforms are really great. Websites are fantastic. But for a lot of authors starting out, it's a big cost like factor. A lot don't have that experience like building it. So you can look to things like Linktree instead, where you can essentially create, and that's like a free platform. There's a paid version, but there's a free version of it, which you can do absolutely everything, where you can essentially create your own landing page, where you can link to your books, you can link to podcasts you've done, you can link to novellas you're giving away. So there's a lot that you can do within that space where it essentially acts as a website until maybe you're at a bigger stage where you feel you can facilitate adding that in. Their platforms like Canva is absolutely fantastic. So Canva essentially allows you to be a designer, a video editor, a content creator, where, and again, like there's a free version where you can essentially do absolutely everything with it, where you can design your content, you can edit and create reels that you can then post on social media platforms. You can even post direct from Canva technically. So things like that are really fantastic. There are Google, it seems so funny to say, but you look at like the Google Drive, like the whole suite and platform, everything else. There's a lot you can do just to manage your business, where you can actually like create your content, save everything, you can store it online. And it's just a good way to just kind of business wise, just keep everything in its place. You can host your content as well. And then another one I really love, when you are trying to build out onto your content, try to create that, it can be really confusing. So another like free favorite tool of mine is Airtable. Again, they have a paid version. You can do absolutely everything on the free version, where you can essentially create all of your content. You can write your captions. You can put your hashtags in. You can put when you're going to be posting everything. So it allows you to just manage what's going on. But you can also do the same thing if you have workshops and retreats you're working on. You can use it as a project management tool within your business. And honestly, like there's so many more that you can use. Like that's not even getting to like the actual tools, like have a microphone, have a camera light, like things like that. But there's so many things. What I do want to get across to authors is look to the things that have like free options first, because there's so much you can do without really paying a cent that you can get in the same way you can really leverage until you're more comfortable. Again, your goal as a new author is to remove as many barriers to entry as possible, so it's not as overwhelming as it absolutely can be. So look for paid or for free platforms and tools and everything else. Of course, like if anybody wants, like just reach out. I have favorites of everything, so I'm happy to share more.
Yeah, no, and all of those tools that you've mentioned as well, from a corporate marketing perspective, a lot of those tools are still used by marketing teams in the corporate
Yes.
world.
Yes.
So, yeah, I know I've
100%.
used a lot of them. So
Same. Yeah. And I think
yeah,
that's the thing is like authors, like remember, it's like, yes, you're an author, but you're also a CEO, you're an owner. Your book is a product you're trying to sell. So start thinking like a business owner, start thinking corporate too. And suddenly that's where a lot more things make sense. And now you start to think more strategically with different types of tools you can use.
amazing. And
Mhm.
so looking kind of forward at
Mhm.
the discipline of book marketing and this business of selling books,
Mhm.
what do you see happening sort of in the next year or couple of years with the industry? Do you see
Mhm.
it going in a particular direction?
Yeah, I see a couple things. I see more people are going to keep writing books. So if you think the space is crowded now, it's just going to keep getting crowded. Name an industry out there that isn't crowded. It doesn't exist, right? So the focus for authors then, or the challenge is you have to really, like, you have to get your personal brand voice out. You have to connect with audience. You really have to know what your books are about, the value to your audience. No matter the genre, there's a value in it to your audience. So you really have to get that. And you really have to start adapting to the new technology that's coming out there. You look at AI is something that's huge, it's out there. And a lot of people go up in arms, but that happens in every single industry where all of a sudden something changes and shifts. At one point, accountants did all their work on just paper, right? But you look at all the different technical platforms and everything else that have come to. So look to technology that's out there, embrace it early, get comfortable with it, use it Again, at one point, social media didn't exist. And yet look at everybody that's out there. So don't be scared of things like AI platforms where you can help create just some structure around some content, you can even use it to help frame out, like, don't use it to write a book, but you can use it to say like, hey, here's some parameters, here's like the structure, what I want to write in. Now help me create a book description out of it that I can later go in and refine. Or I'm going to speak on a stage, help me like, here's all my content, here like all my speaking notes, help me restructure this in a way. So use it as essentially an assistant that you can help bounce ideas off of it. You can create videos or reels or content. You can create AI-based imagery where now you don't have to buy images from stock photos for your content. You can create your own that you then own. You can create stuff that you can use in trailers and everything else. So just understand that the crowded space is not going anywhere. It's going to keep getting crowded. More people are going to keep getting books. And don't be scared of using things like technology to advance you forward and just help make that system easier.
I think that's such a valuable point. Even now, we're in the marketing discipline. It's, the rise of AI really kind of flipped marketing on its head, because the work that we were doing in sort of my day job, we had companies going, well, why aren't you, why am I paying you so much to do this work when I can just use AI to do it? But I think, for authors and for people who are running their own businesses, the time saving and cost saving of these tools is so valuable that you can absolutely understand why these tools are the growth rate of these tools have just been crazy.
Well, and keep in mind, just because someone can do something doesn't mean they will. Everybody can write a book, but how many are actually writing it? How many have work in progresses that are just sitting there? So you can say the same thing about what you're already doing, right? Someone could say like, well, I can just write my own book or my own nonfiction or my own fantasy or whatever. But the reality is they're not doing that. And AI, it's like, yes, people can do it, but they're not doing it. And when you leverage those tools within your business, not only as an author, but if you are doing coaching, consulting types of programs, it just helps better that capacity you have. I use it as an integral part of my business because I can now take on more clients and I can use it to help speed up some of the processes that I'm running and doing. So it's not going anywhere. You have to adapt to it and learn how you can incorporate it into your business to help you get further faster.
Absolutely. So do you have a piece of advice that you would give authors, unconventional or conventional? Is there one thing that you'd like authors to take away from today?
Yeah, I'd say if it's one thing, it's the phrase intentional marketing. So you can do anything. There are so many tools and platforms and strategies and like processes and everything that's out there, but you have to be really intentional. So is this going to add value to my audience? Is this authentic to me? Is this going to help me achieve my purpose? Is this helping fit the vision that I'm working towards? If it's a no to those things, no matter how great an opportunity it seems, it's not something you need to do. So you can't be that space. And marketing, like there's so many things you can do. And like I said earlier, it could quickly lead to burnout because you can keep doing all these different things. You have to be really intentional with your time, your energy, your budget as well. So does this fit? Does this align? Is this going to help me achieve my vision? If yes, then that's the right thing to do. If you don't know how to do that, there's so many people, like there are coaches and programs and resources that are out there that can help you get there, but it just, does it align? Yes or no?
Really great, succinct, clear, love it. Now you have a book to business blueprint. Is it a course? Is it a program for authors? What is it?
Yeah, so I have it set up as a program that people can work, like authors can work with me one-on-one. I also have group elements to it as well. And I actually have a Facebook group that's really tied into the same premise. The book to business blueprint, the premise behind it is essentially let's turn your book into a business. So it's for people that want to be that authorpreneur. So whether you're selling only your books or you're also selling coaching, consulting, merch, like whatever it is, it's the authors that realize that I need to step into CEO role. Like I have to do different things. And this is now my business I want to drive forward. If I want to be a full-time author, creating revenue where I can either retire or I can support my family, I can quit my day job, whatever it is. It's like I can spend my entire days reading and writing. It's now you have to think of your book as not only just a nice story that you want people to read, but a product you need to get out there. So the whole premise is teaching authors how to run the business side of their books while understanding their audience, while developing their message that shows the value of the book to their audience or their services, and then teach them how they can leverage their connections, their network, how they can build authority, how they can get themselves out there so they can increase the sales of the books, programs, and services.
Sounds great. I actually
Yeah.
I might just take a look at it anyway for myself, because
Yeah.
it seems like such a holistic overview of the business of selling
Mhm.
books. So
Yeah.
that sounds really valuable. And for anyone who wants to find out more or want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Yeah, they can reach out to me direct, Lacy at blackfoxmarketing.ca. I'm on all the major social platforms at the.lacy.leafers. They can go to my website, blackfoxmarketing.ca, or they can join into my author only book to business bootcamp or blueprint group. And honestly, I have hours worth of training on that specific. I actually have a free training program specifically on teaching authors how to like incorporate the business side into it. So lots of different opportunities.
Amazing. And what we'll do is we'll provide links to the listeners in the podcast description, and also on our webpage if they're interested in finding out more. But Lacy, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about, selling books and marketing. I think it's been a really insightful conversation.
Yeah, Erica, thank you so much. And everybody else, thank you so much. I had an incredible time.